Hey folks, today I want to talk about books, 3 books in particular that can help you improve your soil health and your productivity in your garden. Soil health is just one of the most important things you're going to deal with when it comes to gardening. When I first began gardening, I threw some compost in the garden and I hoped for the best. And I didn't test anything. I didn't really understand what was going on in my soil. Things grew, but as I learned more about the soil, things grew a lot better. And to learn about soil, I mean, I listened to things, I studied things, but I read some books too. And 3 books that made a huge impact in the way I thought about soil and really helped me improve my soil productivity were these 3 right here: Teaming with Microbes, The Regenerative Guide to Garden Amendments, and the Living Soil Handbook. All 3 of these are great books. We'll dive into just a little bit about them one-on-one here in a minute. But I do want to tell you that I just think that healthy soil directly affects your plant growth. It develops disease resistance. It increases your yields. It does so much for your garden. And if you can just take a little bit of time, a little bit of work, understanding and putting into practice some of the things these 3 books teach, it's going to make a world of difference. So let's jump into this first one here. Teaming with Microbes by Jeff Lowenfels, I think is how you pronounce, and Wayne Lewis. This book is awesome. When I first read this book, I was kind of blown away. I knew a little bit about the soil food web. Heard the phrase, obviously. I looked into it just a little bit through some blog posts, things like that. But this book really does a pretty deep dive into it. Great information. But one of the great things about it is it's really deep and really good information that's easy to understand. It's really written for the average person, the average gardener to understand. In a lot of ways, it's a biology book, but it's so written in layman's terms for you to understand. And, it's got a lot of good practical application in it. It really talks a lot about how the plants interact with microbes, the fungi, and other organisms in the soil. And it really helps to facilitate the nutrient uptake, all those things working together. It offers a lot of practical advice on how to foster a healthy soil ecosystem, such as avoiding synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, that these things can just harm your beneficial microbes. So it got some great information on that. And if you just want to know more about the soil food web, this is probably the best book for that I own for sure. This one here, The Regenerative Grower's Guide to Garden Amendments by Nigel Palmer. We actually had Nigel on our podcast. Rachel interviewed him. And wow, now this one is very deep. And I will say it is a little bit harder to read, but the things that are really good in this book are the fact that it really focuses on amendments. When it's talking about how things work, it's pretty complicated, but there's some really simple recipes in here on just how to take like DIY techniques and things you have around and improve your soil with them. Things like eggshells and things like that. I mean, it's just talking about using everyday things you would have around your home to improve your soil. So it's really good for that. You're going to learn how to make compost tea, biochar, and a whole bunch of other amendments. So I really appreciate this book for that. It is simple in those areas with the recipes, but I do think it gets a little bit in the weeds more than the average gardener probably would want to when it comes to understanding some of the biology and things like that. Still, such a valuable book to have on your shelf. And if you really enjoy learning the deeper truths about your soil, this book is a great one. This next one is the Living Soil Handbook by Jesse Frost. Jesse is a market gardener. So this is the No-Till Grower's Guide to Ecological Market Gardening is the subtitle. And Jesse has a great YouTube channel. He had a podcast. I don't think he does it anymore, but great book. The thing I think I appreciate most about this book is how easy it is to understand. I said Teaming with Microbes was easy to understand. This book, it's just one of them books that when you read it, you pretty much get everything that he's trying to say real easily. It's just written for you to really help you, not trying to impress anybody with big words or, complicated concepts. It's written for you to understand and apply. It really introduces the concept of no-till farming because that's what Jesse does. It's the central theme of the book. And, with market gardening, because you're doing such intensive farming, you're planting, you're harvesting, you're replanting, you're reharvesting, you're just staying, really, you're draining that soil of nutrients. So to take a no-till approach towards that and keep that soil fed during that whole process is a little bit different than the average gardener. Now, me, because I'm on an urban homestead and we are really intensive about the way we grow, this has a lot of application for me. If you're a once and out kind of gardener, like you plant your garden once, you harvest everything, you're done for the year, maybe it doesn't have quite as much application for you. But for the person who's doing really intense gardening or farming, this book has got some great information, some real good examples, proof cases. Jesse does this. That's the thing. It ain't like he's just somebody talking about it. He does this day in, day out, and it works for him. So, it's going to really help you understand soil building practices like cover cropping, mulching, composting. And it's just really a great approach to maintaining a living soil. And that's what it's all about, is a living soil. Each one of these books has a unique perspective. They're not the same. I think all three of them are worth having. I wouldn't say, I guess if I was going to pick just one, it'd probably be this one for me. But Teaming with Microbes, really good. I mean, they're all great. They're all great. I just think they all have a unique perspective on the way they approach healthy soil and how it works and how they maintain it. But all right. I think they're all right, even though they're slightly different in their approach. And I just love that you get this theoretical foundation in Teaming with Microbes. You get these practical DIY solutions with the Regenerative Grower's Guide, and you get this holistic approach to integrating these practices into everyday gardening with the Living Soil Handbook. I think they all three have a great place on your bookshelf and on your homesteads. I would encourage anyone watching this, not just buy these books and read them, but adopt some of these practices. Make your own compost. Understand how to use cover crops and when and where to put them, and how to do no-till gardening. I think a great approach to improve your soil because you're not breaking up that soil food web every time you do it. Experiment. There's some things I've found that work for me that don't work for other people, and there's vice versa. Some things that they say works for them and they haven't worked for me. So I think you just have to experiment, try things. You have to just see what works for you. We all live in different climates. We all have different soil. We are all dealing with different things. So, just try things. Try different things in different sections of your garden. This bed here, do this with it, try this, see which one works best. That's what I've been doing for years. And I've really got it narrowed down, some things that work for me. Compost tea is a big one that works for me. Of course, making compost, these are things that work really, really great for me. I've done some cover cropping, but because of the way I garden, cover cropping isn't quite as convenient because I do it in smaller beds and more broke up. If you're doing long rows, I think cover cropping is a great way to go. So, I mean, it's just what will work for you depending on your situation. I think there's just long-term benefits to building your soil health. You're going to increase your biodiversity. You're going to increase your water retention. I think ultimately you'll have higher yields and you'll ultimately contribute to a more sustainable gardening approach. I think that we're really in this for regenerative agriculture. We want our soil to just stay healthy. And I think that these three books can help you do that. So I want you to check them out. I'll put the links in the description to these three books so you can check them out. And if you don't have them, I think you should look into them. If you have to, I'm sure most libraries have these books. I think they're worth owning, but go to the library and check them out, see if it's something you're even interested in. I think they're great. So if I'm looking to have better soil, these are the books I'm looking to. Well, I think that's it. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next time.